What if the moment Tesla fell wasn't a stock crash or a factory fire, but a laugh? It didn't happen on Wall Street. It didn't happen in court. It happened behind a closed door in Tokyo, when the CEOs of Toyota and Koenigsegg mocked Elon Musk so brutally, the entire auto industry flinched. Within hours, the clip leaked, and when it hit Elon's ears, something inside Tesla broke, for good. This isn't just another rivalry. It's a humiliation so precise, so personal, it shattered the myth of invincibility Musk built for over 2 decades. And it set off a chain reaction the world is still trying to process. What was said behind that door? Why did Elon lose control of the company he built? And how did Koenigsegg and Toyota outplay the man who once rewrote the future? What's happening? Toyota had been watching. For years, they'd watched Tesla win headlines and claim dominance. They let Elon call their hybrid strategy outdated. They let fans dismiss them as slow and cautious. They let the world forget that Toyota was and still is the largest automaker on Earth. But while Tesla was chasing headlines, Toyota was building something else entirely: leverage. In April of 2025, a quiet report out of Japan signaled the beginning of Toyota's electric blitz. 15 new electric models by 2027, 1 million electric vehicles annually. New factories planned in the United States, Thailand, and Argentina, not just to scale production, but to dodge supply chain disasters that Tesla couldn't. And then came CES. Akio Toyoda took the stage with a speech that left the room buzzing. He didn't say Tesla's name. He didn't need to. He talked about rockets, referencing Toyota's investment in interstellar technologies. He joked that while others were building entertainment systems on wheels, Toyota still believed in building cars people could rely on for 20 years. It was brutal, and it was intentional. The media picked up on it instantly. Headlines ran, "Toyota claps back at Tesla." Analysts called it the beginning of a tone shift. The message was clear: Toyota wasn't chasing Elon. They were stepping around him. And behind that public pivot was a much more dangerous one. Toyota began licensing its solid-state battery tech to other automakers. They were not just making cars, they were positioning themselves as suppliers, creating an ecosystem. If Tesla was the Apple of electric vehicles, Toyota was trying to become the Android. The silence had ended, the revenge had begun, and then came a roar that made headlines around the world. Koenigsegg's V8 Bombshell. The Gamera was never supposed to be a threat to Tesla. Koenigsegg didn't mass produce. They didn't make commuter cars. They didn't play in the same league. But when Christian von Koenigsegg revealed the final production specs for the Gamera, the entire industry stopped. A twin-turbocharged 5-liter V8, nicknamed the Hot V8, paired with the company's proprietary dark matter electric motor. The result? 2,300 horsepower and 2,750 newton-meters of torque. It was a monster. But more importantly, it was a message. Christian didn't name Tesla. He didn't have to. He simply said, "We were planning something very different, but after seeing what others were promising, acceleration, range, we knew we had to raise the bar." Everyone knew what that meant. Everyone remembered Elon's Roadster promise from years ago: 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. Everyone remembered the videos, the claims, the taunts. Now, Koenigsegg had answered, and they had done it without memes, without hype, without delay. Tesla fans dismissed it at first. Who cares about a $2 million hypercar, they said. But inside the auto industry, it hit different. Koenigsegg wasn't trying to replace Tesla. They were reminding the world what true performance looked like. No gimmicks, no distractions. Just raw, unapologetic engineering. And then came the whisper that would break the silence. Because it wasn't the engine that rattled Elon, it was the laughter. The leaked recording that made Elon snap. It was supposed to be off the record, a quiet, roundtable event in Tokyo, attended by top executives from legacy automakers. No press, no fanfare, just power players talking strategy. But when the topic turned to Tesla, something changed. According to multiple sources, Koji Sato of Toyota and Christian von Koenigsegg let loose. Not professionally, personally. Elon thinks he owns the future, Sato allegedly said. But when the real work begins, he disappears behind a tweet. The room laughed. Von Koenigsegg followed up. "I used to admire him, but now it's just noise. We build machines. He builds hype." That clip wasn't supposed to get out, but it did. It started circulating in private forums, then among suppliers. Eventually, it reached Tesla's top brass, and finally it landed in Elon Musk's hands. According to insiders, he lost it, pacing, furious. Kicked everyone out of the room, canceled meetings. He didn't speak for hours. Then came the damage control, emergency meetings, internal memos, rumors of retaliation. Industry insiders are whispering, and Wall Street, they were about to make a very different kind of statement. And investors had seen enough. This isn't recycled headlines. We connected the dots they hoped you'd miss. Subscribe now and let's keep going. Wall Street pulls out hard. The headlines came fast, and they hit harder than anyone expected. Dan Ives, one of Tesla's most vocal supporters on Wall Street, slashed his price target by over 40%. He called the situation code red, and the market listened. In just 2 days, Tesla lost over $100 billion in market value. It wasn't just a stock dip, it was a signal. A public declaration that the financial world no longer believed the story Elon Musk was selling. Once seen as the crown jewel of tech-infused automaking, Tesla suddenly looked like just another company. Vulnerable, overextended, and suffering from a credibility crisis. Hedge funds began dumping shares. Pension funds reduced exposure. Even retail investors, the ones who had stood by through every up and down, started backing away. Tesla had become a liability. And unlike previous stumbles, this time the pain didn't bounce back. It lingered. It spread. The questions mounted. Why were delivery numbers dropping? Why was the Model Y refresh so underwhelming? Why hadn't the Cybertruck ramped? Why were core team members leaving? And where exactly was Elon Musk? The answers didn't inspire confidence. Production issues, supply chain problems, price cuts in international markets, and most concerning of all, Musk himself seemed more focused on political rants and his social media platform than on stabilizing Tesla. Financial analysts began quietly using a new phrase, market correction, but others called it what it really was, a loss of faith. For the first time in years, Tesla was no longer seen as a guaranteed bet, and with its share price tumbling, another rival seized the moment. And while Musk tweeted, China moved in. BYD steals the global throne. Tesla reigned supreme as the world's electric vehicle powerhouse. But in the first quarter of 2025, that dominance quietly ended. BYD, the Chinese electric vehicle giant, delivered over 416,000 battery electric vehicles in just 3 months. That was nearly 80,000 more than Tesla. This wasn't a fluke. It marked the third consecutive quarter where BYD beat Tesla in global EV sales. And it wasn't just volume. BYD's vehicles offered competitive range, advanced tech, and price points that undercut Tesla across nearly every segment. Asia embraced BYD. Latin American governments signed long-term EV infrastructure contracts. African nations rolled out BYD fleets for government use. And while Tesla was still struggling with export logistics and regulatory hurdles, BYD expanded with surgical precision. Inside Tesla forums, fans dismissed it. They said volume didn't equal innovation. They said China subsidized its winners. But on Wall Street, those arguments didn't hold. Investors don't buy dreams, they buy results. And BYD was delivering. In showroom after showroom, consumers were choosing affordability, functionality, and availability over delayed promises and inflated hype. Tesla still had brand power, but BYD had something better: momentum, real market share, real global growth. And while Tesla scrambled to recover from one crisis after another old rival was preparing to strike in a region where Tesla once thought itself untouchable. And in Europe, Tesla's oldest rival was waiting with a grin. Volkswagen executes the German Gambit. Tesla once believed it had Europe in its pocket. The continent had embraced clean energy, tech-driven vehicles, and aggressive climate targets. But in 2025, that perception shattered. Volkswagen, the legacy titan of German automaking, made its move. The ID series, once mocked by Tesla fans for looking too conservative, was now dominating the European EV charts. Volkswagen's control of its own battery supply chains and its partnership with regional governments gave it an edge that Tesla couldn't match. Tesla had lost access to many EU subsidies. In contrast, Volkswagen was the poster child of European electrification policy. While Tesla struggled to ship Cybertrucks to Europe, VW was building new factories and expanding production. In a telling moment, one European minister was asked why the government had cut EV incentives for Tesla, but expanded them for VW. The response was cold and simple: we support companies that support Europe. That nationalism, paired with smart strategy, proved lethal. Tesla was increasingly seen as an outsider, an American disruptor who had failed to adapt to European sensibilities. Meanwhile, Volkswagen looked modern, stable, and homegrown. Even the press turned. German and French automotive media began publishing deep-dive articles, criticizing Tesla's build quality, customer service, and product consistency. Long delivery times, buggy software updates, and erratic leadership became regular themes. And behind it all, Volkswagen executives remained publicly diplomatic, but quietly thrilled. Tesla had opened the market. VW was taking it back. And while the world raced forward, Tesla spiraled inward. The product pipeline turns to dust. In the spring of 2025, Tesla finally unveiled its long-anticipated Model Y refresh, codenamed Project Juniper. For years, it had been whispered about as a turning point, a technological leap that would reset expectations. Instead, what Tesla delivered was a facelift, slightly better range, slightly smoother lines, a bit less chrome, and that was it. Reviews trickled in like lukewarm bathwater. Not bad, but not exciting. One tech journalist summed it up best: the Juniper looks like it's trying to hide the fact that Tesla ran out of ideas. Enthusiasts didn't line up. Forums didn't light up. The conversation shifted from hype to hesitation. But that wasn't even the worst of it. The Cybertruck, Elon's self-proclaimed Halo product, was supposed to redefine utility vehicles. Instead, it defined delays. By early 2025, less than 12,000 units had been delivered, far below projections. And the ones that did make it to customers, many suffered from misaligned body panels, rattling doors, and infotainment glitches. For a truck marketed as bulletproof, its reputation was taking serious damage from cosmetic flaws and manufacturing inconsistencies. Photos of warped trim and peeling panels spread across Reddit like wildfire. What should have been Tesla's masterstroke now looked like a rushed prototype. And the most damning moment, a leaked internal memo revealing that Tesla was holding back deliveries on over 8,000 units due to build quality concerns. The truck that once shattered windows on stage was now shattering consumer trust in silence. Then there was the mythical $25,000 car, the affordable EV Elon had promised again and again. It was supposed to open the gates of electric mobility to the masses, democratize the future, and drown gas cars in obsolescence. But in 2025, the whispers grew quieter. No updates, no prototypes, and according to insiders, no factory plans. The innovation pipeline, once a roaring engine of public excitement, had become a sputtering hose. It wasn't that Tesla failed all at once, it just stopped evolving. And as the headlines faded, something worse happened. The audience looked away, and then the workforce began to vanish. The employee exodus Tesla couldn't stop. Tesla's problems weren't just showing up on balance sheets. They were walking out the front door, and they weren't coming back. The collapse didn't begin with a mass resignation or a union protest. It started with a feeling, a shift in the air that every engineer, designer, and assembly worker could feel in their bones. The sense that the magic was gone. By mid-2025, Tesla was bleeding talent. Senior engineers from the autopilot team left for rival firms. Battery specialists, some of the most valuable minds in the company, jumped ship to Toyota and BYD. Even factory-level team leads began departing at an alarming rate, and for every resignation that made the news, dozens more were happening quietly, without fanfare, behind the scenes. One former employee put it bluntly in a viral post: "I didn't leave Tesla because I stopped believing in the mission. I left because I realized no one else there believed in it anymore." Tesla's human resources department was overwhelmed. Internal memos revealed delays in backfilling roles. Recruiters complained privately that fewer high-level candidates were taking interviews seriously. Once seen as the holy grail of engineering jobs, Tesla was now viewed as high-risk, high-stress, and increasingly low reward. The stock collapse earlier in the year didn't help. Employee stock options, once the golden ticket to early retirement, had been decimated. Workers who joined Tesla in 2021 had seen their compensation packages slashed in real time. Some found their shares now worth less than half of what they were promised. Then came the morale crisis. Team chats turned sour. Slack threads were filled with cryptic jokes about Juniper disappointment syndrome and Cyberbug Mondays. Burnout was rampant. Managers were told to keep teams focused, but even they had trouble keeping their own spirits up. And that's when the union whispers began. And outside those factory walls, they were laughing even louder. The industry turns Tesla into a joke. The whispers that began behind closed doors had become cocktail party punchlines. Tesla was no longer the disruptor, it was the meme. At an industry conference in Munich, a Volkswagen executive described the Tesla Model Y as an iPad in a toaster. The crowd roared. In a recent podcast, a Lucid engineer joked that Tesla's self-driving system was the world's most expensive beta test. By April, these weren't outliers. They were the tone. Tesla's own ecosystem began fracturing. Reddit threads that once gushed over new updates were now flooded with sarcasm. How long before the Roadster becomes a museum piece? One post read. Another popular thread was titled Cybertruck or Cyberjoke. Even former allies were distancing themselves. Panasonic, a longtime Tesla battery partner, quietly announced new partnerships with other automakers. Suppliers in Europe began demanding upfront payments, citing instability in Tesla's forecast and leadership. The damage wasn't just reputational, it was strategic. Once you become the punchline, the calls stop coming. Executives who once lined up for a meeting with Elon were now sending feelers to his rivals. The automotive world was done being quiet, but Elon wasn't finished embarrassing himself yet. Elon's public spiral. The headlines weren't driven by vehicles anymore. They were driven by Elon, and for the first time, even his fans couldn't defend it. Following the leaked audio clip from the Tokyo Roundtable, Musk's behavior turned erratic. He launched into tirades on X, accusing Toyota of copycat engineering and Koenigsegg of irrelevant overbuilds. He made offhand comments about Germany's dying auto culture and accused BYD of data mining the world. None of it helped. Investors were already uneasy. Now they were panicked. Analysts issued warnings. This is no longer a technology play, one firm wrote. It's a cult of personality spiraling out of control. In internal meetings, Musk grew increasingly confrontational. Multiple reports surfaced of executives being shouted down for questioning strategy. A board member reportedly raised the idea of appointing a co-CEO. Elon walked out of the meeting. Even shareholders, once the true believers, began to turn. One major institutional investor issued a quiet but clear message. Tesla needed leadership clarity if it was going to recover, but that wasn't coming. Elon was too busy. Instead of calming the waters, he hosted political live streams, posted memes about regulators, debated AI on podcasts. His focus was split between SpaceX, X, Neuralink, and whatever captured his attention that day. And back at Tesla, projects stalled, morale collapsed, revenue forecasts were slashed again, and the industry, it's already planning life without him. The auto industry stops caring. Automakers chased its design language. Policymakers drafted incentives around its technology. Startups positioned themselves as the next Tesla. But by the spring of 2025, the shift had already begun, and no one was even pretending to follow Tesla's lead anymore. Instead, they were deleting its name from PowerPoint slides, removing it from conference agendas, and drawing roadmaps that no longer included Musk or his machines. Electric vehicle incentives that once made Tesla a no-brainer for governments across the world began to quietly disappear. In Germany, France, and Italy, subsidies were restructured to prioritize local brands. Volkswagen, Renault, and Stellantis received generous tax breaks and fleet support. Hyundai, riding high off its Ioniq series success, began receiving similar treatment across Asia. Even in the United States, the Inflation Reduction Act, once seen as a Tesla boost, began reallocating credits to automakers with unionized domestic labor. That left Tesla non-union and increasingly foreign in sentiment. Outside the room, it was the first time in years that Tesla's government support started shrinking rather than expanding. Meanwhile, Toyota and Volkswagen surged ahead, not through innovation, but through relationships, policy alignment, and global trust. The message was clear. Tesla was no longer the center of the electric vehicle universe. It was barely even in orbit. But it wasn't just subsidies. Tesla's once unassailable supercharger network, long touted as the biggest edge in EV adoption, suddenly became less special. In early 2025, major charging consortiums in North America and Europe announced new universal charging protocols, compatible with all brands. Ford, General Motors, and Hyundai began building their own fast-charging networks that worked with the Tesla plug, without needing Tesla. Even Apple, still rumored to be developing its own car, joined the infrastructure movement. Charging became democratized, commoditized, and ultimately standardized. What once made Tesla feel exclusive now made it feel outdated. Fleet buyers noticed. Municipalities that once signed bulk orders for Tesla Model 3s and Model Ys began shopping elsewhere. Ride-sharing companies favored the more affordable BYD options. Government agencies partnered with Hyundai and Volkswagen for electrification pilots. Amazon's logistics fleet pivoted toward Rivian and Canoo, not because Tesla wasn't good, but because no one wanted to deal with the drama. The price was no longer worth the volatility. Perhaps the final straw came when Tesla was excluded from the International Electric Infrastructure Summit held in Geneva. The guest list included top executives from Stellantis, BYD, Toyota, Hyundai, and Ford. Elon Musk, not invited. Tesla, not mentioned. It wasn't a deliberate snub, it was something colder. Apathy. And apathy, for a brand that once thrived on obsession, is fatal. The world didn't turn against Tesla. It just stopped turning with it, and it was what happened behind the scenes that truly broke it. The day Elon lost the room. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, just a moment when people stopped nodding. Inside Tesla's headquarters in Austin, Texas, a meeting was held in late May. The agenda was critical: production targets, reorganization, and next-generation battery development. Senior engineers, design leads, logistics heads, all present. Elon arrived late. He was distracted, irritable. When asked about factory slowdowns in China, he shifted to a rant about media hit jobs. When asked about the long-delayed $20,000 vehicle, he dismissed the question entirely. Then came the silence, a long pause, and then, for the first time, someone in the room, an executive who had been with Tesla since the early days, spoke up. "We need leadership, not headlines," he said. According to sources, Elon stared at him, then at the table. No one moved, no one backed down. The meeting ended early. No decisions were made. Within 48 hours, that executive was gone, resigned, no announcement. But the damage was done. Others followed. Departments once siloed were now leaderless. Engineers were quietly reassigned to vague transition teams. The long-hyped Roadster project was paused indefinitely. Internal forums exploded with anonymous posts. Does anyone know what the plan is? Are we even a car company anymore? Where's Elon? In the middle of the chaos, Musk became harder to reach. He missed 2 internal briefings. One team lead reported being told, "Elon's unavailable this week." A new hire asked what division they were working for, and no one had a straight answer. The cult of personality had collapsed. There was no final sermon, no dramatic walk-off, just the realization that the man who built the brand no longer had the room. And then, the final headline dropped. The final humiliation. It didn't come from a rival, it came from a list. In July of 2025, the World Electric Forum released its annual Top Global Innovators in Sustainable Mobility. The list included 35 individuals, executives from BYD, engineers from Hyundai, designers from Rivian, policymakers from Norway. The cover image featured Christian von Koenigsegg and Akio Toyoda shaking hands beneath the caption, "Redefining the Road." Elon Musk wasn't on the list. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't intentional. It was worse. It was unintentional. An oversight caused not by bias, but by irrelevance. The Tesla brand, once synonymous with the future, was now background noise. Koenigsegg had earned global respect as a visionary of mechanical mastery. Toyota had scaled electric innovation across continents without sacrificing quality. And Tesla had Twitter. Publications stopped calling Elon the next Steve Jobs. They started calling him the final warning. Podcasts stopped speculating on Tesla's next product. They speculated on who might buy it in a fire sale. College business courses used to analyze Musk's playbook. Now they used it as a case study in hubris. Koenigsegg went on to license its free-valve engine technology to 2 European automakers. Toyota announced a breakthrough in solid-state batteries that could hit mass production in 2 years. Tesla, meanwhile, delayed its next event. No new vehicle was ready. The markets stopped reacting. Elon's tweets stopped trending. The man who built a brand on being loud was now met with silence. And that silence was the loudest humiliation of all. And this time, Elon had no one left to blame. If this caught you off guard, you're not alone. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to stay ahead of stories like this, make sure to subscribe.